What's going on, guys? It's Brandon and Gavin.
Back with another episode of the Grand Style Podcast.
Today, we're going to be talking about a story of Hosea, one of the books that not a lot of people know about. It's crazy. God tells his prophet to go marry a prostitute. That's all I'm going to say. It gets pretty wild, guys.
The faithful chases the faithless.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in the episode. Let's go.
Remember back then when I was rolling loud. Started seeking God. He sent me to rolling loud. Talk to G.O.D.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Grand Style Podcast, the number one podcast that you should take with a grain of salt. I'm Gavin.
I'm Brandon.
Today, we're going to be talking about a very interesting chapter or book of the Bible called Hosea. Ooh, I feel like this is one of the ones that people have never read, but they've just,
No, to be honest, yeah. Like this story, I knew the story of Hosea, but kinda, not really. I knew that it was about a guy who got cheated on a bunch, but now I know like the full reasoning behind everything.
We're just going to hop right into it, guys. So if you want to read along. Hosea 1, we're going to read the first 3 chapters of Hosea. It's pretty wild, though. A little bit of context before we jump in.
Yeah, so context, Hosea was before the fall of Israel. The fall of Israel, according to this study Bible, says 722 BC. And these events would have been happening around like 740, 750 BC, after the time of Solomon. So basically, the king at the time, Jeroboam II, he's this king who did things that were wrong in the sight of the Lord, according to 2 Kings. He led Israel to sin. He worshipped false gods, brought up idols in amongst the church and amongst the nation of Israel, and overall just led everybody away from God. But in the book of 2 Kings, there's a prophecy that Jonah proclaims over Jeroboam II, that he will, basically the only good thing he did was he restored basically the size of Israel back to how big it was when Solomon was king. That's context of the time and place. And yeah, Hosea was another prophet sent from God who was tasked with marrying a woman who was, in the Bible, it describes her as a whore, someone who's unfaithful, and it's supposed to be symbolic of Jesus to us, how Jesus shows faithfulness to the people who are faithless. Hosea was tasked from God to show faith to someone who was faithless toward him.
Ooh, really quick before we get into that, what you were just saying actually makes me think a lot about the rulers of Israel this time, because you look at the past kings, David and Solomon, two of the best people who ever reigned over Israel, and how prosperous Israel was at that time. And I could be wrong, but I do believe that God even promised David, your descendants and kings, I will bless them if they follow me. And so if you see this line of lineage of the kings after that time and relation to Israel, it's like if the kings weren't following God, Israel was just completely screwed.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just
100%.
All their people just fell away in the faith, and that's what we see here. And so I think also it's important to realize when you look at this story, it's like a nation and their ruler is everything. Like if that ruler is not submitted to the authority of God, that nation will not prosper. And that's exactly how we see here in Hosea with Israel.
Yeah, I was talking this Sunday, I had a Bible study, and I actually brought up one point that if Jesus were here today, we were talking about something a little political, but we were saying if Jesus were here today, who do you think he would talk to? And I thought maybe like the president, because it's kind of like what he did in the Bible. He kind of would go to, or you look at Paul, look at Jesus, who did they go to? They went to the high priestess or the leader, the kings of that place. He was 12 years old in the temple talking to the Pharaoh. So it's like people of that stature who rule the nation is who he was like, they have the most influence, so I'm going to talk to them. So wait, if he was here today, who's he talking to? The influencers? I feel like he understands that words are power, and just power is influence, I'd say.
I mean, we're going a little off topic here, but now that we even mentioned this, I think the term influencer and people with influence is just thrown around nowadays, especially in the Christian world, because anyone can pick up a phone and make content, but not everyone is called to do so, and not not everyone who's doing it realizes the weight that is attached to that title. And like God literally tells us, like, you're judged more when you have more influence, when you claim that title. And like people just pick it up and like it's a coveted idol in their life. It's like, I want influence and power, but like, and it's not something that's that loose. Like there's bearing and weight to it. And I don't think people really realize that as much.
And yeah, and when we read this passage about Hosea, this is something I wanted to point out because it's kind of what I saw when I first read it. In the first couple chapters, you're reading it and you think to yourself, this kind of sounds contradictory to some other things in the Bible. But you got to realize the things that we're saying are symbolic, which we'll get into in a second. You talked about how God made the covenant, like your people will be blessed if you follow the rules of the Lord, or if you believe and follow the Lord with your heart, which has been even before kings. Like that's the king. That's a promise he gave to Abraham. Like, as long as you follow me, you will be blessed. Look at the Egyptians who went into the wilderness. Those were the people who strayed away from God. They come back to God. They get to the promised land.
Yeah.
Simple. It's basically, what is it? Rinse, recycle, repeat, or whatever.
Yeah, rinse, recycle, repeat.
Literally happens over and over again. So yeah,
all right,
get into the story.
So before we jump in, guys, in case it wasn't clear enough, basically this story is about a prophet named Hosea. He's given a word from God to marry a prostitute, and this is going to reflect God's relationship with an adulterous Israel. And also, I believe, us and Jesus, like our relationship with us and God. So yeah.
Okay, so basically, the first chapter is the call to action that God gives Hosea. He says, when the Lord first spoke to Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, go take yourself a wife of whoredom and have children of whoredom, for the land commits great whoredom by forsaking the Lord. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. So as we see, Hosea obviously is faithful. I mean, he's a prophet, so he goes and gets himself a son, and this is where the symbolism comes in. Let me just keep reading. It says, and the Lord said to him, call his name, this is the first son that she bore, his name shall be Jezreel, for in just a little time I will punish the house of Jehu for the blood of Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. God said, this is me repeating, I will put an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. See, that sounds kind of crazy. The next person that she gives birth to, there's 3 kids. She conceived again and bore a daughter. And the Lord said to him, call her name No Mercy. Her name is No Mercy. For I will no more have mercy on the house of Israel to forgive them at all. But I will have mercy on the house of Judah, and I will save them by the Lord their God. I will not save them by bow or by sword or by war or by horses or by horsemen. So they see that sounds a little bit confusing too. Like they're literally saying like, I won't have any mercy. I just forget everything I said. No mercy for you guys.
But also, real quick, while I was doing research on this, Judah and Israel were split up at this time. So Israel was north, in like the northern part of Israel, and then the tribe of Judah was southern. And so God's saying like literally just the nations, like because the people in one nation were literally just worshiping the other idols and stuff, which we'll read in a second. But God will save the other nation, but this one that is not following him, he will not have mercy on them.
Well, that's not actually true. You'll see. It gets to it. It's like,
well, be redeemed, but.
And then the last person that she conceived, she bore another son, and the Lord says, call his name Not My People. So these are obviously very symbolic names, because the name Jezreel, I believe, is the name of a battlefield. No Mercy, obviously, is symbolic for not having mercy. And Not My People, these are just words literally from God. You will call him Not My People, for you are not my people, and I am not your God. And then the next verse is the prophecy of Jonah. It says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And in the place where I said to them, you are not my people, it shall be said to them, children of the living God. So basically, it's saying that the people you are now are not the people you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that in a later chapter. But do you have anything to say about that?
What do you mean that it's the prophecy of Jonah?
Oh, in second Kings.
Oh, did he said this in 2 Kings?
Jonah, yeah, he says that, and he also talked about how the size of Israel will be restored
Oh, okay.
to like its fullest measure, I guess.
Cool.
But yeah, so
I know
always
that's
keep
awesome.
whenever we're talking about this, keep your mind on like symbolism, and don't just think literally.
Perfect. All right, so now we have the second chapter of Hosea, and it's talking about punishment. This, I'll be very honest with you guys. I read this the other day in a coffee shop for the first time, and I was crying reading this whole chapter, just because you just see the heart of God and like His nature for us, even though we're so unfaithful to Him. And this is the main reason I wanted to read this on the podcast today, because it just really spoke to me. But yeah, so Hosea 2:1 says, "Rebuke your mother, rebuke her, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband. Let her remove the adulterous look from her face and the unfaithfulness from between her breasts." So straight off the bat here, we're just talking about, we see Israel, and we see how there really is a marriage covenant relationship between Israel and God, and this is how God sees it. And the reason I believe that God has Hosea write this whole passage is not just for us to see a relationship between God and a nation, but also God and us. Because whenever we follow anything that isn't God, it says He's a jealous God, and it breaks His heart. That's why we see here a marriage relationship. Like, imagine if I married a wife and then she went and cheated on me and slept with me, or slept with a different person. Like, that would break my heart. And that's exactly how God feels here, but it's just even more immense pain. And so just keeping that in mind as we continue to read. Otherwise, I will strip her naked and make her as bare as on the day she was born. This is God's warning of judgment to Israel. If they do not follow Him, there will be judgment. And I think this is important for us to read, because I don't think of Israel when I read this. I think of America. And I think of how America, there's so much idolatry and evil. And if you guys read through the book of Jeremiah and you compare Israel in that time to America today, there's so many similarities.
Yeah, literally, I just read this verse literally as you're saying it. Verse 21 says, "And in that day I will answer, declares the Lord. I will answer the heavens, and they shall answer the earth. And the earth shall answer the grain, the wine, and the oil." This basically means exactly what you're saying. Like, we're answering to the wrong things.
Yeah.
Like, we're responding to whatever the world has to say about us, what social media says, what people want money says.
Yeah. So God's warning judgment on this nation if they do not turn to Him. "I will make her like a desert, turn her into a parched land, and slay her with thirst. I will not show my love to her children, because they are the children of adultery." And if we think back to the children that was born in the first chapter, they were given very harsh names. They were given, "not my people." They were given no mercy. Like, imagine coming out of, imagine being a baby named Not Mercy.
That would suck.
That would suck. Basically, in God's eyes, the children born in this nation are children of adultery because of the people who are already inherently living in it. So because of this evil, it's not just affecting the people there, it's affecting their offspring, anyone who lives in that land. Their mother has been unfaithful and has conceived them in disgrace. She said, "I will go after my lovers who give me my food and my water, my wool and my linen, my olive oil and my drink. Therefore, I will block her path with thorn bushes. I will wall her in so that she cannot find her way." And I like this a lot, because it's something that is also representative in Jeremiah. I talk about Jeremiah a lot because Jeremiah is also very similar. A prophet is talking about all the wrongdoings of Israel. And in Jeremiah 9, I say this verse, Jeremiah 9:7, it says, "See, I will refine and test them, for what else can I do because of the sin of my people?" And basically, as we see here, God's only solution to us when we're in sin is judgment and testing and refining, because there's no other way for Him to win back the hearts of people if He just sits back and removes His hand and lets them do what they want, because they're sinful people. They're going to just fall into the sins that they're inherently drawn to. So in His eyes, He's got to put the thorn bushes around us, and He has to make us see what we're doing is wrong through the trials, through the pain, through all of that.
And literally, you just keep giving me examples. So, the Gomer. How do you say it? Gomer? I think it's Gomer. Gomer, was basically blind to everything she was doing wrong until Jesus showed her by taking things away.
Yeah.
It says all these bad things she's doing, all of these sacrifices she was making to Baal, all these bad things. It says, verse 8, and she did not know that it was I who gave her the grain, the wine, and the oil, and who lavished on her silver and gold, which they used for Baal. Therefore, I will take it back.
Bro, God gave me a word when I was reading this one, because what he's literally saying is, I was the one who gave her all of these blessings, and she turned it into an idol.
Yeah.
And it made me,
she thought highly of herself instead of highly of God. She thought, this is something that I've earned, so I'm going to use it to my own liking, not something that God's given me, which happens so much. Like, I was watching like Logan Paul, like Impulsive, and it was Logan Paul talking about, like, which I think he's becoming better. He used to, like, do dog on Christianity, but now he's like, he had Cliff on recently. It was chill.
Yeah.
But he always say like God didn't give me that. Like, even if I was a Christian, it's like I did that myself. Like, he's convinced that because he worked hard, it means it's his. But you worked hard, but it was God who gave you that energy.
Even in dude, I never even thought about that when I was reading this, but you're right. Like, okay, look at verse 7. She will chase after her lovers but not catch them. She will look for them but not find them. Oh wait, no, sorry. That's the wrong one. I think it's actually a little forward. So, okay. So 13 says, I will punish her for the days she burned incense to the Baals. She decked herself with rings and jewelry and went after her lovers, but me she forgot. This is like saying that I provided for her all along, and she thought that she was getting these blessings from these other people and things she was following, like it was me all along. Kind of like how you're saying with Logan.
Yeah, I feel like that's a hard thing to, like, get over. It's like a hard hump to get over, because there definitely are so many things in life where it's like God gives me free will, so it's like, how can I not take value in my own actions?
Right.
I don't know.
Anyways,
that could be something I struggle with too. I don't know. Who knows?
That's good. But
Do you have more on? I want to end with the last couple verses.
Oh, I'm not done.
Oh, okay.
I'm not done.
Yeah.
So, I think something I really realized from this is that not everything from Satan can become an idol. Sometimes the blessings we receive from God can become our idols. And like sometimes people look at idols and they're like, "Oh, I idolize this because like it obviously wasn't from God." But like, bro, sometimes God gives us abundantly, exceedingly more than we could ask or think, and we receive it and we idolize it above him. And that's exactly what he's saying here. She did not acknowledge that I was the one who gave her the grain, the new wine, and oil, who lavished on her silver and gold, which they used for Baal. That's what this is saying here.
I could think of a good story. A gift. So there's this guy. He's talking to me, and he's like, a gift he's been given is the gift of prayer, like being good at praying. And he's like, I want to be known as somebody who's really, really good at praying. Like, that's my thing. And every time I see him pray, I feel like there's a sense of he wants to pray long. He wants to pray fancy so that people will look at him like that's what he wants to be known for, that. Right. So it's like, I feel like it's a negative way to view it. You shouldn't be like, I want to be seen as the best prayer. That's not how it should be, right?
Right. That's a good, because that's something that God's blessed you with.
Yeah. If you're striving, if you're purposefully praying longer because that's how you want to be perceived, that can't be a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus didn't purposely, Jesus hid from people. Jesus went into a room by himself and ran away. People were like, where's Jesus at? Jesus did not make himself famous. People desired what he knew and what he'd already had.
Yeah. So I really wanted to focus on the back half of the second chapter, which really talks about why God sends us through hardship. And this was the bulk of my heart for this passage. Let's just start at 2:13. I will punish her for the days she burned incense to the Baals. She decked herself with rings and jewelry and went after her lovers, but me she forgot. Like, that just sounds like such a sad thing from the Lord. She went after her lovers, but me she forgot. Like, God is married to us, right? And we're cheating on him by going after our other lovers. I can only just imagine how much that breaks and shatters his heart. And therefore, and this is why God says, therefore I'm going to do this. Even though that we've sinned against him, we've been unfaithful to him, we've cheated on him with our other lovers, this is what he's going to do for us. 2:14. Therefore I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her. There I will give her back her vineyards and will make the valley of Achor a door of hope. And real quick before I continue, a valley of Achor means trouble. So what God is saying is, I will make the valley of trouble a door of hope. What do you think about that? Like, does that just not sound so comforting and like a valley of trouble, a door of hope?
Yeah, it kind of sounds like having peace in the valleys. It's kind of what sticks out. Kind of makes me think like, but yeah, I don't know. It makes me think like having peace in all circumstances.
Yeah. And like Hebrews 12, the Lord disciplines the one he loves. He's basically saying that a valley of trouble, she's going to go through this trouble and it will become a door of hope for her, for relationship with God, for her future, because God's going to restore her. There she will respond as in the days of her youth, as in the day she came up out of Egypt. And that day declares the Lord, you will call me my husband. You will no longer call me my master.
You don't know what mine says? Mine
What?
says, can't show you and talk. Mine says, and in that day declares the Lord, you will call me my husband, and no longer will you call me my Baal.
Yeah, so Baal actually means master.
Oh,
And
I don't know that.
when these people were worshiping Baals, which are just idols, they only understood of a transactional, fear-based relationship with gods, because they would be sacrificing to their idols and all these things out of fear and transaction, wanting something out of it. But what God says is our relationship with him is completely different from that. It is supposed to be something that's intimate and safe, where there's no judgment, where you love hopes and trumps all other things, like marriage. And that's why we're supposed to call him my husband and no longer my master.
Yeah, you got to think like when you're in the valleys and you're not following Jesus, that's when you want to go to the Baals. That's when you want to go to the Baals, because the Baals offer temporary comfort. Basically, this is what Baals promise you. If you're in a valley, he basically gives you like an airlift. He lets you go really, really high, but you're still in the valley. You're just really high, so you can see across the mountains. You can see what's farther. So you're like, oh, I'm in a good spot. But then once he lets you go and sabotages you, you're all the way back at the bottom again. What God does is he gives you a car to ride on, to ride up the mountains, to get over the mountains quicker, to actually ascend and go over the mountains instead of just seeing what's on the other side. It's like seeing what's on the other side of the mountain might look good, and it might be appealing to some people, but without a way to get there, there's literally no point. And as you said, the God of Baal is like out of fear, out of greed, out of lust, and it's just the complete opposite. It's a generous God, a generous heart, a not lustful, not adultering, a not lying, just a not sinful heart is what brings you to the true God, who's gonna, I don't know, that's the only way you can have peace in times of lowness.
And like, I can just imagine someone maybe messing up and being so afraid that like this Baal could strike them down, and then God being like picking them up, be like, no, I'm not a Baal. I'm not someone who's going to strike you down. Even though you've done these things against me, I'm your husband. I love you so much that we're going to get through this together. I'm here for you. It's going to be hard. Maybe I'm going to bring you through the door of trouble, or the valley of trouble, but then there's going to be a door of hope, and I'm going to transform you and work through you. And that's like why I love this passage so much. It's just so, it just makes me so encouraged to know that that's how much our God loves us. And
I want to keep reading that.
yeah.
After it says, and I will betroth you to me forever. This is verse 19. I will betroth you to me in righteousness and in justice, in steadfast love and in mercy. I will betroth you to me in faithfulness, and you shall know the Lord. So it's like the complete opposite, a complete turnaround.
Right.
God earlier was saying all these bad things like,
Right.
no mercy, you're not my people, Jezreel, which I guess would mean like talking about death, I'd assume. And yeah, he goes on to say that he's going to give us all of these. He's going to give us faithfulness. He's going to give us mercy. He's going to give us love. And then even farther down, it literally restates the names. It goes, this is the very last verse. It says, Hosea 2, verse 23, it says, "And they shall answer Jezreel, and I will sow her for myself in the land, and I will have mercy on no mercy. And I will say to not my people, you are my people, and he shall say, you are my God." So it basically just says, after all of that, after him saying, you're not my people, you don't have mercy, and he's not going to give you the land to Jezreel, he basically says the exact opposite. He's like, I'm going to sow and betroth you guys into my heart, into your nation, which is going to in turn give mercy and invite the people under God's wing.
So good. And it just makes me think back to when we did the verse on Ezekiel. It's like he takes the broken cities and restores them for his name's sake and his glory. And so he loves us so much, but he's not just doing this for us. He's doing it also for his name. Like, I can just imagine a broken Israel being restored, turning away from their Baals, turning to God, being prosperous again. And it's just because they decided to trust back in the Lord.
Okay. So, chapter 3. Hosea redeems his wife. If you look at the story of Hosea and the adulteress and Hosea, you see that it's a story of a husband and a bride. Now, if you look at this story from a different point of view, you look at it as we are the bride and God is the husband. And if you look at it that way, Hosea, he bought his wife. His wife was like a prostitute. He bought his wife and is paying his wife and is being faithful to this person who's unfaithful to him. If you look at God, it shows that God is willing to pay a very high price to love someone who doesn't love him back. Jesus paid the ultimate price. He died on the cross for our sins just to love somebody that doesn't love him back. That's kind of crazy if you ask me. Like, I probably wouldn't do that. I'm not Jesus. But that's how you know that God is greater and better and his love endures everlasting. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, basically Hosea 3 talks about how Hosea redeems his wife. It says verse 3, "And I said to her, you must dwell as mine for many days. You shall not play the whore or belong to another man. So will I also be to you. For the children of Israel shall dwell many days without a king or prince, without sacrifice or pillar, without ephod, how do you say that?
Ephod, I think.
Ephod or household gods." This is talking about that last verse, verse 4, how they'll dwell many days without king, prince, or sacrifice. I believe they're referencing after the fall of Israel. So like after 722, after Israel falls, there's nobody for a while. And afterwards they will return and seek the Lord their God and David their king. And they shall come in fear to the Lord and to the goodness in the later days.
Yeah. That's good.
I mean, I think it's nice because it's just like, it's another forgiveness story.
I think also you missed a little thing in the beginning that I would have said is the Lord said to me, go show your love to your wife again, though she is loved by another man and is an adulteress. She's literally just chilling at another guy's house, bro. Like she's just straight out blatantly just cheating on her husband. And it's like, even though she's loved by another man, go get her. Go reconcile with her.
I can't imagine if you were Hosea, what would you do?
Bro, I'd like be throwing hands. Like
Yeah,
I'd be knocking on the door like,
so angry.
Yo, you sleeping with my wife? But no, Jesus says, he doesn't tell him to go fight or do anything. He actually tells him to go and like bring things to her. And so he brings to her 15 shekels of silver, which I don't know how much that is, but he brings to her 430 pounds of barley. So he just brings all this stuff to his wife and just simply says like,
He actually didn't bring it to her. he bought her. It says.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Bought.
So
Yeah.
he bought her for that. So he's basically saying, you must. That's why I says. That's why I wrote verse 3 says, you must dwell as mine.
Mm,
You will not. He doesn't say, I don't want you to. Please no.
yeah. But what I love here is he doesn't call her out because he ends it with, I will behave the same way toward you. Like, obviously, he never did this in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But the way he's approaching her is so out of love that it's like, you don't do this, I won't either. Like, we're in this together type thing. And like, that's exactly how God is with us. Like you said, he buys us back for a price that we could never deserve. Like, Gomer does not deserve that love from her husband for how she's treated him. But yet, that's exactly what Hosea does. And yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I wrote a little one-liner. It says, the book of Hosea is a love story where the faithful pursues the faithless, mirroring God's heart for us. Kind of what I said earlier.
That's so good.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Yeah, do you have anything more?
No,
Dude,
basically,
maybe we should go through some more of Hosea for a different podcast.
Yeah,
Kind of like
we'll
this.
see. But yeah, guys. Moral of the story: if you marry someone, if they're a prostitute, buy them back. Wait, it's okay. If Jesus tells you to do it,
Hosea bought a prostitute. So does that mean? No, I'm just kidding.
but yeah, guys. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm Gavin,
I'm Brandon.
and this is the Grinnerfeld Podcast, the #1 podcast that you should take with a grain of salt. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.